Oh my god. Hello, hello. Thank you for your willingness to get nerdy with me once again. I am on the struggle bus with technology, so bear with me. I've already done this whole video one time, and I'm learning. I'm embracing the new. I'm enjoying this. Hopefully, you can tell that I'm having fun with this. I like to write, but I also like to be able to show people things. So, this week I was procrastinating. Deeply, deeply procrastinating. If I could show you what I needed to get done in my personal life and I didn't want to do, you would totally understand. But you know what? I don't want to inflict that upon you. So, uh, Jason Pargin, who I have up right now, is a TikToker who I like. And what I like about him is he presents a lot of food for thought and meaty either videos or books or movies that are thought provoking and require some digestion, require some thinking. I like to think for fun. I'm an intellectualizer. I have issues, but the more I can go up in my brain and the less I have to feel my feelings, the happier I am, supposedly. No, but I like diversity of thought, things that challenge my belief system, some of my feelings, or what I think I know about the way that the world works. I enjoy growing and expanding that way. If I didn't, I never would have learned astrology, so there's that. But anyway, Jason Pargin, pretty easy to find on various social media. One of the things that he recommended this week was The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling by ContraPoints. I recommend it, but I do want to warn you that I am talking about trans activism, anti-trans activism, and J.K. Rowling specifically. So if that's not for you, I'll see you in the next video. I'm not here to incite controversy. I'm definitely not here to be angry. But this video, when I watched it, made me angry because of the way that LGBTQ people have been treated, just kind of generally by society. It's really angering and frustrating that people can't just let other people live their lives in peace. And I do understand being threatened by people who are different from you, feeling threatened by that. But I think that the way around that is learning about the other party and not yelling at them. And I just think that that's true regardless. But there's a lot of talk in this video about bigotry and prejudice and other unpleasantness, and then really good examples of ridiculousness. So it's really interesting, and that what I like about ContraPoints is that she tries to see things from the other person's perspective. How perfect that is, I don't know. But if you haven't watched it, it's a recommendation from Jason Pargin that then I also watched. But because I'm such a freaking nerd, the people who ContraPoints talked about in this video, the one that is in front of you right now that we're not going to watch together, I started looking up charts of the people involved. So, because I have to, because I do that. I don't do it in my personal life so much anymore. I used to be awful. I would find ways to sneak into conversations like, what's your birthday? What year? So that I could at least know what the heck people were about. But now if someone's a public figure and they have a birth date freely listed, I'm going to look it up. I'm just going to look it up. If they're interesting to me, or if more often than not, I'm like, what the hell is this person's deal? And then I look it up. So I'm going to show you some of the people that ContraPoints talked about in her video and what they have in common. And feel free to watch her video if you're curious, but these are the main people who appear in the video, basically. It's not like she has this whole line of people. I kept looking at the different people she was talking about and finding the same thing. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So here's the astrology part. We're starting with Anita Bryant, who I didn't know a lot about. Not a whole ton. Like, obviously I'd seen some of the footage of her in her heyday, but basically she thought that if you were gay, you just should decide not to be. And that's frustrating, obviously, right? And I guess I should say that I struggle because I was raised in a religion where you're not allowed to talk about politics. I struggle when it comes to making statements that could be perceived as political. I think my views are clear, but I like them to be more subtle. Basically, I feel like if you're not bothering anybody by existing, if you're not harming someone, like going out of your way to cause someone pain or suffering, and you're just minding your business and leaving other people alone, do what you want to do, you know? I don't... I understand that sexual orientation is a spectrum, and whatever you want to do, it's fine. Those are my feelings. But anyway, having said that, Anita Bryant here. This is the thing that jumps out to me, and this is what I'm really talking about today. So she's got Uranus and Venus in this ridiculously tight conjunction. Conjunction just means that planets are next to each other. And there are a couple of things that you typically see when you see energy like this. So Venus is several things. Love is a Venus thing. Sexuality, partially Venus, and then values. And so I'm leaning a little bit more heavily on values for this video for obvious reasons. I at least hope it's obvious. By the way, they're in the sign of Taurus, which lends itself more toward values because that's what Taurus is more about. The other Venusian sign is Libra, and that's more about love and romance. And I'm laughing because I changed my intonation to be mocking when I said love and romance. Again, I have issues. But Uranus with Venus, so Uranus is a very mental planet. It's about detachment. It's about, it tries to be about progressiveness a lot of the time, but it can also be holding very radical points of view. And when Venus is with Uranus, especially this conjunct, it's like you like having a radical point of view. You like being shocking in some of your values or some of your opinions. And in the 10th house, which she has here, you like doing that really publicly. That's something you like being known for. That's one way that you could read this energy, and I think it's kind of an accurate way. But by the way, I'm going to scroll up and just show you. So we have, this is her, if you've never seen her. 310 birth time, that's not a flat birth time. We like it. I use Astro Theme a lot when I'm looking up celebrities. They have a pretty good database, or not even just celebrities, famous people more generally. I do look at their ratings and where they come from. Lois Rodden is somebody who just collects a lot of birth times, birth records. So this is relatively trustworthy in terms of birth time and location. So this is probably actually her chart, but they do have that. Like if you see a birth time that's like 9 p.m., question it, and then that they do give a reliability score. So just something to consider. I don't know exactly how they calculate that. Anyway, other thing I want to say about Venus-Uranus, on the love front, it is the divorce aspect. They would be the number one divorce aspect because Uranus makes you go up in your head. You can fall in love with somebody really fast. And so just like in a whirlwind, just have an all-encompassing, like, yes, I am in this 100%. You know, you fly into it with both feet or your entire body or whatever. But just as quickly, you can decide overnight, like, no, I'm done with that shit. And then just move on. So that's something that you see. So, but just think about it as the potential for extremes. Potential for extremes in love, potential in extremes for sexuality, and potential in extremes in terms of values. Also, if you were a person who was attracted to someone who you quote unquote shouldn't be, I did quote fingers. I know you can't see me, but I just want you to know that I did them. You could mind over matter it. Another way of thinking about Uranus and Venus together is whatever your ideals are, that's the Uranus part, you can try to cut off parts of yourself, not literally, but figuratively, that don't fit the mold that you want to be in, and sort of like force yourself into, like, this is how I'm gonna live now. Which, excuse me, why would you want to do that, right? But with Uranus Venus, you're more likely to see that than just a regular old person. Okay? With me so far? All right. J.K. Rowling. Again, up here, we have a non-flat birth time, we have a location, but it's C reliability, and the source is a rectified from approximative time. So what that probably means is that J.K. Rowling gave her birth time as 9 p.m., and some astrologers were like, oh, well, but it would have made more sense based on the placement of Uranus or Neptune or Pluto or Saturn if it was actually 9:10 versus 9. That's what rectification is. I one time rectified a chart on accident when, and I was truly new at astrology. I think I'd maybe been doing it for 8 months, but I was given a birth time that was something like 10 p.m. And I looked at the chart, I was like, no way, it's more like 9:45, just because this person was having a really awful time, and 9:45 would have put Pluto right at her IC. And then it turned out that the person looked at their birth certificate and I was correct. And they're like, oh my God, how did you know? And it was like an intuitive leap more than anything else. But astrologers do like to try to rectify birth times. I don't know how I feel about that. Obviously, that lowers the reliability score. But if somebody just says, oh, I was born at 9, I also, I don't like that. So I would almost rather keep the lines in the chart fuzzy, just in terms of houses and ascendant, MC, etc. And just in the back of my head know that what I'm looking at might not be 100% correct. But we're going to work with this because we don't really need the houses as much for this. But here again, we have Venus and Uranus, and then Pluto and Uranus together, because J.K. Rowling was born in the late 60s when Pluto and Uranus were together. I'm going to publish this after the Kurt Cobain video, which, same thing. He's got Pluto and Uranus. I have some other ideas of people born in the 60s as well. Might do them, might not, don't know. But point is, as I also have said before, when you see Pluto with some stuff, imagine the floor opening up beneath it. It just gives so much more depth to the importance of whatever energy is next to Pluto. So it is not only important to have views that maybe are idealistic or maybe are radical. I don't know how you want to say it, but it's desperately important. And then relationships are also extremely important. And I do want to point out the 7th house is the relationship house. These are, if she's born at 9 or 9:10, these aren't going to leave the 7th house either way. But I believe I'm counting 5 planets in the 7th house. And then additionally, she has an opposition for the 1st house, from the 1st house of Saturn, which is another heavy hitter. So Saturn versus Pluto, Uranus, Venus. Uh, yeah. And then the moon's over here and Mercury's over here. But that's that's a big life theme. That's just going to be a big life theme for her. And so it's learning to have your own personal authority, which is this guy over here, versus some people who you might find radical or threatening. These people over here. But this is still her energy. So she can decide to play this role and then disown this role. And it's again a Virgo Pisces split. So, and when you are embracing energy or rejecting energy, it's minute by minute. And hopefully I find a better way to make this point that's not just in the middle of a video. But something that I was talking about with Kurt Cobain and things being on angles, that means that you don't have a choice about whether or not the energy expresses. It has to. But if you have planets and energy that aren't exactly conjunct angles, which just means next to, you have a choice. You have much more of a choice. You have freedom about how it expresses and whether it expresses. You can outrun it. You can play around with it. You have way more options. So she can be this or she can be this, but when oppositions are involved, and if you, I mean, this Astro Theme does draw these lines rather liberally, but if you look at this, Saturn is aspecting almost everything in her chart. Almost. That's a lot. That's a lot of tension from Saturn, which is what it's going to do most of the time. With oppositions, it is really, really hard for you to play out both of those energies at the same time. You usually need to draw people into your life to be the other energy. So that's just something to keep in mind. The way to grow, though, is knowing that you're doing that consciously versus doing it subconsciously and then asking yourself, why does this always happen? Because when you become conscious of old patterns that you would like to change, you do have to learn to stop yourself from just falling into the same rut again and again and again. I'm thinking, is there anything else I want to point out in this chart? But I think I'll move on. And I need to take a deep breath here because Ben Shapiro, who I forgot he existed, and then he appeared in the J.K. Rowling video from ContraPoints, and I was like, oh, right, this guy. We've got a birth time. It looks pretty accurate. It's got AA reliability. Whoever Victor E is on this site, and again, I spend a lot of time looking up birth data because it's just what I like to do. It's like my version of a crossword puzzle is looking at energy. Maybe I'll change. I don't know. So Victor does a lot of this birth information uploading. Decent reliability. And oh, what a chart he has. Once again, Venus and Uranus together in the sky. And then if you look, so one thing Astro Theme doesn't do, I think unless you ask it to, is it will only map the North Node, which is here in Gemini at 15 degrees Gemini. So you have to use your imagination and put the South Node here between Venus and Uranus. So planets on the South Node tend to be really, really ingrained in you and express in a, I guess one way to say it is old and tired way. You just have a knee-jerk reaction that is you expressing this energy. So yelling about your values might be, sorry, it's in the sign of Sagittarius, which tends to be rather boisterous and expressive and just like, this is how I feel. Not everyone with a Sagittarius South Node will do that, but yeah, I'm trying not to be a jerk, okay? People are entitled to their viewpoints, again, as long as they're not saying that another person doesn't have a right to exist or encouraging other people to do awful things to their fellow humans. Um, I just, I'd like to point out though that Ben Shapiro has a lot of really intense energy. So he's a Capricorn, and then he has Mars and Pluto together in Scorpio, and then Saturn in Scorpio. That's heavy energy. This is intense energy. Um, I'm not sure about this chunk here, which is Jupiter, Neptune, and Mercury. But over on the other side of the chart, there's a Gemini moon. And I'm sure there are plenty of Capricorns with Gemini moons out there. There could be one watching this right now. Hello, hi, how are you? It is not uncommon also just it's not uncommon to have a sun sign and a moon sign that have nothing to do with each other. It's not uncommon. It happens. This is one of those pairs though, because this is serious energy, this is serious energy, this is serious energy. This is not. This moon over here is not. And something that happens often, and I'm not saying that he's doing this or that he is this, but I really try not to hear him speak. I so I don't know if this is what he does, but here are the lines in the chart. So this is ascendant, descendant, and then IC, MC. You can use your imagination and fill in the lines, but this is the western side of the chart. He's got all of the planets over here except for the moon, which is over on the eastern side of the chart. When you see a split like this, a planet, lonesome planet over in on one side of the chart, that's energy that tends to get disowned. It tends to need to have somebody else to portray it. And it is part of an opposition, but even if it wasn't part of an opposition, it tends to need someone to step into it and become it. And especially, I mean, he's male, and the moon is a signifier of a female. This could be energy that would be very easy to be disowned for a number of reasons. It's also on the North Node, which a lot of the time when you find planets on the North Node, the owner of this energy hasn't been able to feel that they can have that energy or own that energy. And it's in Gemini, so there's just all of this heavy stuff. Again, I'm not sure whether this is heavy or not, but this is enough of one, two, three, four, five, six heavy planets. And I'm not saying heavy hitters, although many of them are, but planets that feel heavy in just the way that they're naturally going to express. Capricorn suns are no joke. Pluto, Mars in Scorpio. That's almost as intense as it gets, honestly. And then a Gemini moon. Like, what is this Gemini moon doing? I'm not sure that it gets to be conscious or that it gets to be played out unless he has some really lighthearted hobbies that I'm not aware of, and I'm really not aware of this person very much at all. But I think I'm done talking about him, but I just want to point out that here again is this. And then the one of the last people that she talks about is Graham Linehan, who is this dude. I scrolled past the Google capture of like generally this is him. So this is the first hit Wikipedia, second hit, which is where I got the birth date from because it's not on Wikipedia, and then third hit is him. He's being sued by another trans rights activist, and ContraPoints talks about the fact that this guy, her words, he ruined his life going after trans people on Twitter specifically, and it just seems, or should I say X? Would it make sense if I said he was going after trans people on X? Like, I feel like that sentence could be interpreted several ways. I also, selfishly, I don't know if this is selfish or not, but I love the IT crowd, and I love Father Ted. I love Father Ted so much. So it bums me out. It bums me out about J.K. Rowling, too. It just bums me out that these people are doing what they're doing. Is there another way to say that? Okay, so this is where we got the birth date from. Now we go over to my software that I use because I had to chart it myself. So as you can see, the birth time is noon because that tells me that the moon is definitely in Aries, though we don't need an Aries moon for this one because Venus is trine Uranus pretty closely. So it's not the conjunction. We can't all be perfect and fit into a neat little box, but this is still it's more of the same, right? So frustrating, but it just I looked them all up and I found three of the same things and then one that this counts as being within the family. Trines are energies that can merge together very easily. And so I think it affected me so much and frustrated me so much because I too have Venus square Uranus in my chart. So I have a Uranus Jupiter conjunction, and they're square Venus, and so I know what it's like to have this idealism about values. And when I was much younger, I was a menace because I was going around, and I mean the high school version of me, I was going around giving everybody relationship advice and telling them ideally what they should do, and then get mad at them for not doing it because I wasn't factoring in human emotion and the need to fit in and the need to belong and the need to have people who you love around you. And here I am, like, don't tolerate their weakness. Don't tolerate this behavior. Here's what you need to tell them. Here's what you need to say. That's what I did. I did not say that people should live their lives a certain way or that certain sexualities were okay or not okay. Obviously I'm an empath, and the longer I've been alive, the more human experiences I've been exposed to. I don't know how people can say that someone's way of living or someone's preferences and the way that they want to conduct themselves in private or, in semi-public, just my my personal boundaries are just like, don't be making out in my face or I'm gonna yell get a room at you. I don't care who you are. Like that's just me, but no, I mean this is a serious issue, and it was one that I didn't want to look at with these famous people, and I mean J.K. Rowling and Graham Linehan. I don't mean Ben Shapiro, because I again like to forget he exists, and I had forgotten he existed, and then I had to look at him and remember again. And Anita Bryant, I wasn't alive in her heyday, so again I didn't care, but going after a minority is never cool, and people are just trying to live their lives, and I understand why they'd take to Twitter and be really angry based on the experiences that they'd had in life so far on either side of the equation. And so I'm using my tiny little soapbox to basically say I don't think we're going to get anywhere productive by yelling on Twitter and calling each other names and just like saying hateful shit. I agree with ContraPoints on that because that's eventually where she goes in a lot of her videos. I watched a few because I was seriously procrastinating. And if you do watch any, they are long, so that's why I sound a little bit sheepish because I did not want to do what I needed to do. And that's what I do. I'm like, oh, I'll learn stuff and then I'll feel like I'm being productive instead of doing the thing that I'm supposed to do. Anyway, people, there's a lot of suffering for amongst people who don't feel like they fit in to society for whatever reason, or they've had traumatic experiences in being othered. And we don't need to do anything to make them feel worse, I don't think. So, I do wish that these famous people would use their platforms to feed people who, who need resources. It doesn't have to be the people you hate, but just like do something productive with your time and money and other resources rather than continue to be hateful. I don't understand what we're doing as a society when we just take to social media and yell, but I do understand that that gets a lot of clicks. And that values type of stuff appeals to the audience with Venus Uranus. And so I guess that's ultimately the lesson of the day. And that's how I got here, down this rabbit hole of watching a video and then starting to look at charts. But that's what this is. That's what this looks like. Hope you enjoyed this. And I welcome your thoughts and questions, but I do not welcome any social commentary about how people should live their lives. So leave me alone with that and leave everybody else alone too. Thanks for watching.